Hey everybody, thank you for listening to Filling in the Gaps. Be sure to check us out on our social media pages at Filling in the Gaps. From there you can get updates on show releases and anything special we may be doing. Sit back and enjoy the show. Should be a lot of fun.
And welcome out, everybody, to another episode of Filling in the Gaps. Rich and Cameron here, Rich on the Ohio side and Cameron on the Texas side, to bring you another brainstorming episode of Filling in the Gaps. Now, maybe this is your first time. If so, welcome. Good to have you. Filling in the Gaps is a show where we simply, the two of us, story-loving, nerdy, tabletop-playing geeks, sit down and for the next hour, we will brainstorm an idea based on a random theme and a random scenario, and hopefully at the end of the hour, you have some kind of idea to approach your weekly gaming session with to make it a little bit more fun or exciting or to have an extra twist. We live simply just to be two guys, two friends, having fun, brainstorming, and hopefully helping somebody else out by doing it. Cameron, you want to go through what the rundown of the show looks like?
Yeah, it's pretty simple. First and foremost, we roll, grab our themes and scenarios. We shake up those bones and build out a skeleton, build out world-building aspects of the place that we're trying to create. We try to create the plot and things like that. We sort of breathe some life into it by creating NPCs, monsters, interactions, sort of interject some personality into that, even incorporate some mechanics that we can use. We start to then create like a little bit of a story synopsis, sort of just to rein us back in for everything that we just talked about. And then we tell you goodbye as we wait for another week to see you later.
And that's the hardest part. It's the hardest part of every episode.
It's really hard. I was going to start singing, but I'm not going to sing.
That's probably the best. They didn't come here for our singing.
Not yet, they didn't. Not yet.
Ooh, true.
In due time, my friend, in due time. So, Rich, let me ask you this then. This week, this is something that we've started to do, and I enjoy this. We talk about our inspirations. What inspired you this week in terms of storytelling? What did you learn about?
Okay, so I want to start my inspiration this week with a little bit of a confession. I have...
These are my confessions.
Yeah, I still haven't seen Infinity War yet. I also still haven't seen Black Panther or Civil War or...
I'll be right back.
I know.
I'll be right back. I'm going to go throw up.
I know.
I'm going to go throw up for a second.
I know. Like, even like Doctor Strange. I haven't watched Marvel movies in a while. And it's not because I hate Marvel movies. I just, surprisingly, I don't go and watch a whole bunch of movies. The last movie I saw was The Greatest Showman. And it was good, but I feel like I should go out there and just,
oh my God.
I know.
We have some things to talk about.
I know. This episode's taken a much different turn. But
right.
But here's the thing.
I think you mistook my question for what inspired you to what is. Hey, Rich,
what is wrong
what
with
do you think will trigger? What do you think will trigger me the most this week?
Well, I'm happy to have triggered you then. But here's the thing. I was listening to a YouTube series talk about what they liked about the Infinity War series and like leading up to it, and they talked about the difference between Thanos and Tony as these two father figures. You have Tony, who is the father figure to Peter Parker, who's trying, built a mechanical suit for him, trying to protect him, trying to inspire him, and ultimately trying to keep him safe and trying to keep him from harming himself. And then you have Thanos, who refers to these people as like my child and kind of steps in as this very, I'm going to protect the world. I'm going to protect everyone. I'm going to rule over everyone as this very generous benefactor. And aren't they happy? They should be grateful to have someone as powerful and as strong as me there to look out for them. And I loved that because I love villains. Don't get me wrong. I love myself a good Joker. I love the villains who are just like...
Some people like to watch the world burn, Mr. Wayne.
Exactly. And I love the people who are just so evil that you have to love and hate them. But also, I like some villains who, once you start sitting back and thinking about it a little bit, you're like, man, I really don't like that guy, but he's got some strong arguments every now and again. Like, there's some things he's saying. So for me, I love that in villains. It also doesn't help that I'm playing in a cyberpunk session right now, and my friend is really good at making these villains, and all of these factions that each are right and wrong, and it's like, oh gosh, what do we pick? So I don't know. That's what inspired me, is to make villains who aren't just bad guys, but are bad guys who, in their own mind, consider themselves to be good. And maybe once you sit down and think about it, also you start to think, oh crap, are they right?
Yeah, the quote I love is the best villains think they're the hero in their own story, and it's so very, very true. It's actually something that you must take into consideration when making your NPCs in your games, just because you can't, unless you are making the Joker, you truly have to have a reason why they're doing what they're doing. Are they saving their family, and this is their only way they see how? Are they trying to continue to run this business in the way that they feel is the most beneficial to the town?
Yep.
They have to have flawed views from the norm, of course, and some part of their past has to create that. That's actually a really good point. It's funny we haven't really talked about that before on this, so I thought that's super interesting and good. It's a great point, because Thanos is a badass villain.
Dude, yeah, seriously. I need to watch some movies about him or something.
You do. You need to step your game up, man, just a little bit.
Do you want to hear...
If you need me... I have a Blockbuster card. I can lend that out to you.
Dude, if you could mail that to me, or take a picture, and I'll just scan it to me, fax it to me, whatever happened back when Blockbuster was around last.
I'm sure they'll take care of that.
But one of my favorite things I did, I know this is off topic, but hey, maybe we'll get some of that idea. One of my favorite things I did with a villain who was a bad guy, good guy, maybe, was, so in D&D, Medusas, some of them have a demon, type backstory, but some of them are just straight being a demon or straight being cursed. But some of them, because of something that's happened to them, maybe they've been cursed by a demon or been affected by a demon, become a Medusa, not because of choice, but because of consequence of what's happened. So I made this Medusa who was, trapping all these adventurers and doing all these things that, we gotta go kill a Medusa because of. But when they found this Medusa, her temperament was very much that. She had the PO of someone who's been abused, someone who's been specifically sexually abused by all these men.
Oh wow!
Yeah, by all these, specifically men, and these strong male types. And then this demon comes and makes her an offer, and the demon, who is, it's kind of like the Harley Quinn scenario. This abusive figure becomes the protector figure. And this abused person becomes I'm going to protect my abuser because I can't get out. And some of the characters were like, this thing's evil, we have to kill it. But this one character was like, dude, this person's a victim as much as the people she's hurting are. And it created this moment where DMing that night was easy. I introduced that idea, and then I sat there for an hour as the players were just like, moral conundrum. But
it is afoot. Now she wanted to turn the people who hurt her to stone, as she had become stone on the inside.
Yes.
That's a crazy villain. But that's the perfect example of what type of a good villain there could be.
But what about
as
you?
I was saying
what
before,
inspired you?
my inspiration was music. So I know that's broad, but I'll hone it in a little bit. I was listening to a band called the Oh Hellos, and I like their type of music. They really talk a lot about writing on the outside of their music, and they talk about how it inspires them for what they create. And what I started to realize was, as I listened to the music, the emotions that it evokes inside of me, it brings about that emotion inside of my writing. So if I'm trying to tell a horror story or something to that nature, I'm going to find music that brings a sense of gloom or doom or a fear. Sometimes it's as simple as literally just putting on Halloween thematic music. I will, when I'm creating my Western campaigns, I will legitimately listen to the top 100 greatest Western themes of all time, which are but they bring out this this emotion in me, and it starts to paint pictures in my head, and I just don't stop writing. And so I guess to any of y'all that are listening, that's a huge thing. Now, I know some people will say, hey, that distracts me, I don't want to do that. That's fine. Different strokes for different folks. But for those of you who don't mind that or have used that in the past, just don't stop writing. And you make typos, mess up. But at the end, when you sort of come out of this, for runners, they call it the runner's high. I guess it's the writer's high. You'll see that you've just filled 3 or 4 pages, and then you're going to find inside of that wonderful gems of imagination.
Yep.
Because you've been inspired that way. I love listening to music while I write.
No, and
it's absolutely the best way to do it.
Yeah, I agree. And I know that music, like, because I know sometimes for me when I listen to music, I can like get lost in thought, some good and some bad. But I think personally, like, and like I said, don't be offended if it does distract you. I'm not saying that you're doing something wrong or like, oh, you should just get your act together. But I know for me, as someone who is distractible easily, sometimes out of those moments of distraction come some of my best ideas when listening to music. Like just being able to sit there and be writing and then having a train of thought that just gets sparked by something.
Right.
Now for me, I have to kind of time myself back together and make sure I don't just follow that train of thought so far that I forget everything. But I feel like for writing, being able to chase down those trains of thought and then look at it and say, is this something I can make something out of? Does this apply? I feel like it's a good writing practice if it works for you.
Yeah, there is that trap that you do fall into where you can drift, and then you're just like, wait a second, where was I again?
Exactly.
I can't remember.
Yep.
But ultimately, that's why I do it, and that's why I was inspired by it. Before we hop into rolling, Rich, would you like to say some things to Vractorum? I'm killing this guy's name now. I'm killing it.
Vractorum. Vractorum needs to be like a villain in my session now. He's got a good villain
you know what,
name.
Vractorum? In our next session, we're actually going to make a monster based off of your name. If we ever get to something like that, maybe like a demon or something like that, we're going to make a monster.
Or a man.
And I'm calling it right now. Or a man or anything like that.
Or maybe a dragon. But
yes.
But yeah, dude. So we got a message on our Reddit from Vractorum, and Vractorum's been listening for a little bit. He had recently a session with some new players. He said the role play went really well. He's doing a great job telling stories. Everyone's getting into it. So I want to say, dude, good job. Keep it up. Keep letting us know exactly what's going on with your session, and hopefully some ideas we throw out here you can continue to use. Just make sure your players don't listen to the podcast, or else they'll know exactly what's coming. But yeah, good to hear that your session's going good, man.
Absolutely. And then Dr. Awesome MD, you had given us the idea of the book Golem, and guess what? It's a thing now.
It's a thing.
You can go find it on the home brewery now.
Mm-hmm.
And I must say, I went and took a look at it, and the work that Rich has done is unparalleled. I think Wizards of the Coast has been calling for about 4 hours straight now, trying to get a hold of them because they're ready.
Dude, Wizards, hey, I know you're listening.
Yo, what's up? Shameless plug. What's up, everybody?
I know you're one of our 9 subscribers.
We know you're listening.
But
whenever 6E comes out, they're gonna just drop all kinds of stuff that we did. But that's fine.
Hey, that's fine. But yeah, Mr. Awesome, also, if you're listening to Mr. Awesome MD, you'll notice that one of the loot items out of the book golem is the awesome tome of book golem making, which will allow you to craft a book golem of your own. So hopefully you run that with your players, and they create a book golem of their own to terrify you with, which will be awesome.
Oh man, he turns on the creator. That's the ultimate story of redemption. Hey, Rich, I do have something very, very important to ask you, though.
Of course, anything. Cam, what's up?
Shall we roll?
Dude, I'm ready. Let's do this thing.
Let's go.
Now, who's rolling?
So you're going themes. You're going themes,
okay.
And I am going scenarios.
All right.
Here we go.
Let's go and do this thing.
Lucky number 7.
All right. And for me, I got a 3. Okay.
Oh my god. Oh no. I don't. It's a traveling circus hostage situation.
What?
Man, our first real challenge. This is gonna be a challenge right here. Let me tell ya.
Traveling circus hostage or hostage situation.
Hostage situation. Yep. Man. Ladies and gentlemen, we're not stumped. You better just be prepared to be patient with us because we're about to have to sift through this bad boy and try to figure this thing out.
So
okay.
So let me ask you, Cam, when you think of a hostage situation, what makes a hostage situation?
I was thinking like elephants standing on balls and giraffes and stuff like that. That's what my mind instantly goes to when I think of hostage situation. More so than anything else.
Oh, yeah. Nothing like a good jolly old hostage situation.
Hostage situation is, to me, it could be a lot of things. But I think that when it becomes part of my mind's eye, the hostage situation is more of singular individual, absolute desperation, and taking highly vulnerable people or taking advantage of them. Whether it be people or any creatures or whomever. Mm-hmm. Now, this can be on singular scale. This can be on a grand scale of, sort of stopping someone from pressing the red button to drop the nuke on a city that's holding a city hostage. So, I view it in a lot of different ways. But the one that always comes to mind is standing in front of the bank. Mm-hmm. Give me a helicopter. And that whole thing. What about you, though?
I think
it's tough, right?
Yeah, I love honestly what you said about single individual versus the highly invulnerable. I think that sounds like a great way of kind of defining and building off of that point. And maybe it's not a single individual, but just the invulnerable versus the vulnerable, and how you kind of sift through that. I like that idea a lot. So what about this traveling circus?
Well, now, okay, you know what? This isn't so bad. Guys, gods, give us all you got. We can handle this, okay? Traveling circus. Obviously, you think of grand sort of exposure. You think of animals and exotic things and wild attractions, but my mind goes to things like diversion in a lot of ways. And so what I'm thinking is something that maybe this circus is a way to divert attention.
Circus diverts attention.
Maybe Mr. Barnum and Bailey is actually trying to plan something excessively dangerous that could potentially put a lot of people, innocent people, at risk.
So you're saying it's not like there's someone in the center of this traveling circus just like, I'm going to hold y'all hostage. No one's going to be able to escape. Like, no one leaves until I get this. But more of like
I view this traveling circus as almost like a Trojan horse of sorts.
Now, do you see this as something where, this is like the meetup is at a circus? So you hear that, you hear from a villain or you hear from somebody and they say, hey, you got to meet me at the circus. If you don't, then this is going to happen and this is where you can find me. And everyone else is unknowing at this traveling circus? Or is this something where the traveling circus is on one part of the town and you're on another part of the town?
What I was thinking is this.
Okay.
Let's say the traveling circus gets to the center of this town, right? Mm-hmm. And it draws people in. And people are excited to see the wild and crazy things that the circus has brought about. Mm-hmm. And then as everybody arrives, boom, it's a trap. Ooh. It's been sprung gloriously, as Joker would say. And then as that happens, the ringmaster, or that's the right way to put it, right? The ringmaster or the ring...
Yeah, ringmaster.
Ringleader, yeah. This guy has started to now try to find ways to use his like large booming voice to try to speak to whomever is in like some type of authority figure and talk to them about his demands, essentially. And this is their way to sort of shake down a town.
Ooh.
And they've probably done this before.
So maybe like what was that old nursery rhyme of the guy who played the flute? Is it the Pied Piper? He played the flute and lead the mice out of town, and then he played the flute and he led the other vermin out of the town, and they didn't pay him, so he played the flute and he let all the children out of the town, or something like that. Am I making something up again?
Well, I'm going to be quite honest with you. The Pied Piper is not in my vernacular at all. I don't even know. I've never heard of that. So I'm not going to be able to support you on this one. I just don't know, man.
It is the Pied Piper, and for some reason I grew up hearing really weird nursery rhymes. So talk to my therapist about that one later.
Well, then you know what? I'm going to agree with you. Yeah, that.
So
it's like that.
Okay, so I like this idea of the circus being welcomed into the middle of town, because man, think of how much you can cover up, with circus folk coming in, especially with like illusion magics, even just straight up smuggling. Like it'd be so easy just to have these bags going through town, and everyone's gonna say it's the circus. Of course, they've got all this weird stuff going on.
Right.
So I like this idea of them smuggling something into the city, and that's where this hostage situation takes place. Whether, it could be maybe you're running something that takes place in a modern city and they're smuggling in like a chemical weapon or something, or same thing with like a sci-fi setting. You could do like a large scale bomb, or even a fantasy setting. It could be as simple as they've got some kind of spell they're going to cast, or they're here to, Pied Piper some people out of the town.
Their final act is the large spell or something,
Yep.
That could be their way. I feel like this could be really fun to do in a lot of ways, because D&D to me feels like the best setting again. Mm-hmm. And again, it's probably the most common game that we have too. We could always branch out from that, but I just like the idea of magical monsters and unusual things being presented in these opportunities like this. Spells and illusion magic and all that. That's all stuff that just feels like it fits so well with this scenario. And the ring leading bad guy just sounds so cool. Now, would you prefer a more modern setting, maybe in a city? I mean, you did say you were playing a cyberpunk game right now.
I am playing it. I'm playing a cyberpunk game, but I like the idea. I think honestly, what we're doing, it could work in any setting. I like fantasy settings personally, because for this, it'll let us do something with magic.
Yes.
With especially like minor illusion and stuff like that. Now, have you ever heard of a creature called a Rakshasa? You have to say it like that also.
A Rakshasa.
So a Rakshasa, it's a fiend, a medium fiend, and it's tied to, it's a demon tied to one of the 9 hells. I'm sorry, a devil. There is a difference. But they specifically, I'll just read right out of the player's handbook. I'll read this first sentence, and you tell me if it sounds good to you. The Rakshasa employs delicacy and misdirection in its pursuit of dominion over others.
Yes. Yes, it does.
And its appearance, Rakshasas are humanoid-sized creatures. However, instead of having skin like a normal human, they are essentially like a tiger standing on their hind legs, and their paws form their hands, and they are these devilish manipulators of others, constantly trying to get power over others. They're a very high challenge rating. They're spellcasters. They can cast fly and plane shift and dominate person. Just have a ton of charming at their disposal, which would be great for a ringleader.
Yes, it would. And I'm actually picturing it right now, and that sounds amazing.
Especially going back to the Pied Piper situation, you have this idea of they come to the town, and they put on this show, and now he has all of these people under his sway. And to those who aren't, he says, you've got to do this for me. And if you don't, then all of these people are mine. Like, all of these people are coming with me.
And the dice thought we couldn't handle this.
Mm-hmm. Come on,
get
dice.
Out of our face.
Get on.
So what is it? It's a Rakshasa?
Yeah, Rakshasa.
Rakshasa.
S-H-A-S-A.
That's a really cool. Okay, that's a great big bad. That's our good big bad.
Mm-hmm.
I like the idea of him wearing like a top hat, and he's got like the shirt, the button up like black with the long white sort of tails coming out of the back of his shirt and things like that.
And he can also take any form too. Like he's not stuck to looking the way he looks.
Oh, really? So he could look like a human.
Yep. Well, I even think too, it'd be cool like as you're walking in, there's like this lion pacing in this cage, like an actual lion. And like you like look in its eyes and it's got something about it. And then like later on, like this lion just like stands up on its hind legs. After like the manipulation or after everyone's under its spell, like this lion that's just been prowling around the ringleader the whole time stands up and you're like, the lion's the boss the whole time? What?
Yeah, that's also cool. You know what else I was thinking? With that Rakshasa, I'm butchering its name.
Rakshasa.
I'm not saying it the right way. That's why.
You have to say it with the fanciness, yeah.
Rakshasa. With that, what there also presents itself the moral conundrum that your players could potentially be in, where are these circus beings, are these beings that are being traveling in the circus, are they under the control of this thing?
Yeah.
Have they become sort of its slaves of sorts? And now your players are presented with the idea like, do we have to save these guys? Do we have to go in and figure out how to go about helping these people?
Yep. What
so
happens
this is
when
a
they
sort of
start
a
swinging
slow
at
burn.
us?
What's that?
What
Sorry,
happens when they
hear
start
you.
swinging at us? Like, are we fighting to kill or what?
Yeah. And this is a cool way to teach players that may only know one way, which is to murder hobos. Again, we're holding a seminar 2 weeks from now.
Yep.
Everybody's invited.
Yep.
It's an absolute disease, and there is a cure, and it's called friendship. So we just got to be there for people.
You can do it.
But anyways, yeah, you got to believe. The big thing is you can start to teach players that know only one way of dealing with combat, and maybe start to introduce some depth to their combat scenarios when it comes to something like that.
Yep.
And you can create empathy. Sometimes you can just straight up kill some guys too, because like an entire posse of clowns in a circus as a bunch of bads with some hammers and stuff would be crazy cool.
Oh yeah, it would. Oh man. So here's a potential hook maybe. The reason how you bring this story into your session. I think a session like this could be great near a big holiday. Whether it's like Halloween or like the beginning of like a harvest festival or like a summer, spring, even like Christmas maybe, Thanksgiving, and you have, this already celebration going on in the town, and whether the circus is invited in as part of the show or whether they kind of show up, there's this whole idea, your player's going to be like, oh yeah, DM's just running this session with the circus and having the circus come in as a good old celebration. It's that time of the year, and it feels very like it's happening in the background. And then whether the players go to it or not, as time goes on, it just starts to seem very odd. Whether it's like the circus is outside the town and, people go out to it, and like maybe this is the town your players are familiar with. And, the first day the circus is on, the players are distracted or they don't go. And then the next day the town just seems very empty. And they're like, where is everybody? And more people go out to the circus and no one ever comes back. And as you go, like, maybe when they go and look at the circus itself, it's just filled with throngs of people. All of them maybe just like cheering and chanting and mesmerized, just standing to their feet. And you can see it on them that they're physically exhausted. But their face is just like enraptured with everything that's happening.
Oh, that's very Jokerish, and I love it.
Yeah, and then like
that's
you walk in
Jokerish.
And there's some people there, maybe there's some like older people that they're familiar with, and as you walk in, you just see people cheering until they pass out, like in the crowd.
Oh yes.
Boom.
Yeah, and then the ringmaster could be like, ha 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 ha, I've seen that you've made it. Mm-hmm. As you can see, our circus is quite captivating.
Yeah. Oh, dude. That's the perfect one-liner right there.
There it is, baby. Boom. I bring the heat with my one-liners. Now, for the rest of my story, I'm terrible, but those one-liners, I can get them. I can get them going.
Get them going.
Okay, that's a really good hook. I like celebration hooks, by the way, because it's fun to sort of be like, hey, look, it's Christmas. And so there's this natural expectation to sort of do or be something.
Yep.
Because as we all are for any kind of holiday. And then to throw that holiday on its head.
Yep.
I mean, people expect things when it comes to Halloween, but could it be Christmas? Could it be a different holiday? Could it be a made up holiday in the fantasy universe? You know, whatever it may be. I love the idea of that. Okay, so the slow picking of the civilians and them sort of just getting tired and wearing them out. How can we make this a multi-tiered sort of scenario? And what I mean by that is, how can we make it to where, you know, you walk in, you see the big bad right away. How do we create multi-levels to reaching to finally defeat him or her or whomever at that point?
Well, that's a good question. So let me read what abilities this guy has at his disposal. Maybe something will, spring up from that. As a spellcaster, he can cast anytime, detect thoughts, disguise self, and minor illusion, which that's pretty good, being able to change yourself and your looks on a fly, and also kind of detect what people are thinking. 3 times a day, he can cast Charm Person, Detect Magic, Invisibility, Major Image, where he can kind of create a huge illusion, and Suggestion. And then once a day, he can cast Dominate Person, Fly, Plane Shift, and then True Sight, so he can see invisible people and into other planes and stuff like that.
So he's Thanos, essentially.
Yep.
He's Thanos with the Reality Stone.
Yep.
Got it. Okay.
I mean,
what about this?
Who's that?
What is this Tahanos that you speak of?
Yeah, seriously.
Okay. What about this?
Okay.
He starts to gain, since he understands and he can sort of see all in this local area. He starts to gain an understanding of the fact that your party is not being affected psychologically by his spells through the circus and everything like that. He shifts and becomes a bartender at the local bar to start, right? The pub, I guess. And that's when he enacts his first sort of attack on you. His way of going like, just be rid of these idiots, as he's started to gain information from you as being the bartender. He disappears from sight, then these goons from the circus show up. That's a good little combat encounter right there.
Yep. Especially because, like, if you're not going to the circus, or maybe if you've been and it's not your thing, you come back to town. Of course, he's gonna be captivated, if not even like just enraptured with you. That kind of Joker Batman sense. We've talked about the Joker a lot, but that idea of like he's infatuated with your party because your party isn't initially affected.
Right.
So he has to pull out the big guns on you guys, which makes sense if your party's adventurers who've been around the block.
Right.
I think.
Yeah, I mean, he's going to be tough to beat for lower level parties, I would say.
Oh, yeah. His challenge rating is 13, which means like 4 level 13s would have a hard time. Now, here's the thing, though. You don't have to run a challenge rating 13 Rakshasa. We could do some things to make him suitable for lower levels.
Hey, that's a novel concept. We can change however we want to make stories and storytelling easier for our players and our games.
Yeah. It's almost like we're the master of the game. The game master.
This is incredible. Let's talk about it as if it was, though, a little bit higher level party, because there's going to be some cooler stuff happening with that, with all the spells and abilities that your players may have at that point.
Yep.
But introducing that first battle, it might not be like readily evident right away that the bartender himself was our big bad. Can we call this? No, because Vagdorium is set for something else.
That's true.
There's a dragon. Okay, so we're gonna call him Dr. Jeff. Dr. Jeff, the bad guy. Dr. Jeff, the bad guy, is the bartender, and then he starts to get his goons because he says, "Okay, this is light handiwork. Y'all take care of that." Then he realizes, "Oh man, that didn't work." Where would you take it from there?
Well, I personally like the idea of even like making his goons. It doesn't even necessarily have to be like his circus goons. Like if he's the bartender, you could just have everybody in the bar turn at him or turn on the party, and that brings about what you were saying too, where it's like I can't fireball these patrons, especially if it's a town you know. Like I know these people. Like it's not them, it's this dude. So you either have these like low level minions that are dealing like 1d4 damage, but are there and getting in your way, and getting in between you and the Rakshasa too, or you have like them trying to keep these minions safe as the Rakshasa's putting them in harm's way. And he's got to be just laughing the whole time. Like he strikes me as someone who if he's a circus leader, like he does this partially for himself and to gain power, but also he's enjoying it. And that could even be where your hook to defeat him comes from. Is you lure him into like this greatest show, and it's like he sets the stage for this fight that he's sure he's going to win, but then he loses.
His confidence is his undoing.
Exactly. Now, as far as a thing I would do...
Now, does he expose himself that early to the other people? Is that where his ego messes him up?
Well, this is one thing I did, and I think it could help us in the sense of maybe he doesn't expose himself right away, but you kind of can tell that something's happening. So I had another player who was dealing with a good old classic body double of himself, like the anti-Link version of himself. Yeah. But this thing could also shapeshift, and also could look differently. And its sworn mission was just to make this true version of himself like miserable. The character's name was Lucas, and so we called the opposite version of him Sakal. So Sakal's out there just trying to make this guy miserable, and Lucas throughout the game has found like a wife, and he's adopted this orphan. He's the type of player who likes having these roots. So I lured him out to fight Sakal by capturing wife. When he shows up in this woods tracking him down, he sees his wife kind of like sitting there on the ground, and when he runs up, the wife like turns around and stabs him, and that's when he's like, crap, this is Sakal. Because he even changes and like runs off, like flies through the trees. So he's chasing him down, and then I set the bait. I had him once again like turn a tree, and as he turned, here comes his wife, his actual wife, running towards him. And the only thing I said is like, you see that she's got like a wound at her side, which I didn't say before. And he picked up his dice and said, I shoot an arrow at her. And then he said, you know what? No, I don't. I let her keep running. Because there was this thought in the back of his mind of like, I don't want to attack what I think is my body double.
Right.
And then kill my wife. It was his wife. So but the sadistic joy I would have had of having this body double.
Yeah, you're a terrible person.
I know, I really am. But it would have been like just such a defining moment of just pure character breaking point. For that guy absolutely. So with this Rakshasa, if you're in a town where you know a lot of NPCs, it could be that you have him just stay as the bartender and have this stuff happen, and everyone's like, what the heck's up with the bartender? Like, what's he done? Has he been evil the whole time? And then they chase him down, they find him, and it's actual bartender, and they do whatever they're going to do with him, whether they interrogate him and figure out it's not him, or maybe they shoot first, ask questions later. And then you have, the Rakshasa show up, and have this moment, this monologue moment, that they have to have. And with some of his abilities, fly and plane shift and things like that, it would be easy for him to escape from the party, and the party to know like, oh, there's something off like at this circus. We have to go deal with this guy, and that's when you drop your one-liner. I'd love to see you at the circus. It's the most captivating show.
I like the idea of the Rakshasa standing in the middle as this crowd is all passed out around him in the center of the giant circus ring, right?
Yep.
And he's standing there, but he's the butler, and the players are confused, and they don't really understand why, right? Or at least at this point, they've got a sort of an idea. and then he starts to shift into the Rakshasa.
Mm-hmm.
And his true self sort of reveals himself as maybe a chimera and another sort of weird type of just crazy circus animal comes around the side.
Yep.
Creating some type of awesome battle in a really, really cool setting to me.
And then
oh,
go ahead.
Go ahead.
No, I've been talking for a while. Keep going.
Well, what I was thinking is after they defeat him, if they do defeat him, then the people do the, it's just like it's a very cliched movie thing. Everyone wakes up to see the heroes standing over the defeated Rakshasa.
Mm-hmm.
And they've broken the spell. They've saved them from this quasi hostage situation. In a lot of ways, I just think that's a really great way to finish it for sure.
Oh yeah,
it's definitely the hero's triumph, but I think that's really cool.
Now you want to talk about a really. I'm sorry, everyone. I'm sorry, I'm evil on the inside. But you want to talk about a battle scene that could be
all
sweet.
life needs balance, my friend. You would know that if you've seen Infinity War.
Dang it! I'm gonna have to go watch this now. But okay, you're in this scenario like you're talking about where you have the ring and just all these collapsed people. Maybe there's still some like lazily trying to cheer as much as they can, which will be awesome as this fight's going on. Maybe at some point throughout the fight, which one thing I love doing in combats with big bads is not just have it be like slugfest where the big bad doesn't change at all throughout the fight, but have his tactics change. Take a lesson from Software and Dark Souls. And have, checkpoints of in his health where after this happens, I'm going to change how he works. So the Rakshasa could just be flat out trying to fight in the beginning. And then after a while, something he could do with, once again, invisibility or fly, plane shift, he could disappear. And then you have him like pop up in the crowd, but he's disguised as a person in the crowd. Or you have this like section of the crowd like stand up and just start attacking the players, and maybe the Rakshasa sounds a certain way, like his laugh. He doesn't change his voice or his laugh, so you can hear amidst this fight of this throng of civilians attacking you, the Rakshasa's voice as he's taunting them, and he's one of those people
because his ego is through the roof.
Exactly, and that's where players who have some spells that might not always seem useful, like detect good and evil. Like True Sight, we're talking about a high-level party, so some of them might just pick like big, like boom, like evaporate people's spells. But this paralyze them of doing that. They can't just evaporate this group of townspeople. Clarify,
right?
They could, They could.
It's not like they wake back up from their spell and then they look around and go, "Hey, little Billy's dead.
Yep,
it's okay. We're back to normal."
Exactly. So that could be something where, and the Rakshasa does that for a while, where he fights a little bit in this crowd, and then he could pocket over to another crowd. He could like pocket over to another crowd. It's kind of like, fighting a boss in a video game who has illusion forms, but the illusion forms just happen to be NPCs your players really love.
And your fighter will feel like the biggest badass if he can just somehow says, "I reach to grab for that voice," and say they roll a 20.
Yep.
And boom,
just snags
their hands grasp around his neck, and like they just feel like an amazing. These are those moments of cool that can happen.
Yep.
Okay, so we've talked a lot about the Rakshasa, and we have a really good fleshed out big bad. I really love this.
Oh, me too.
I like the idea of big bads having generals and second in commands and things like that.
Yeah.
Does it say anything about the Rakshasas being that type, or are they more of lone workers that utilize these mental tactics
by
themselves?
It says that
because then again, I mean, they could be a general that has been, he said from the previous towns that this person has this Rakshasa has taken care of, they could have taken a few of the strongest ones, maybe players just like your own players, and have taken them from those towns and put them in these scenarios to fight for them now.
I think that sounds like the best scenario. because
Yeah.
the Rakshasa, his thing is he likes to, his end goal is he's feeding his appetite for human flesh and evil schemes. He's just like a classic what you expect of a devil. But with him being so charming and beguiling, he's a smart dude. He's not just like hungry, I gotta eat everything. This isn't that villain. This is the villain who's like, very much like a vampire would. I have the thing that I eat, and then I have the things that serve me. Especially if he's got circus folk. So I think for sure this guy has to have some mini bosses and some other baddies to fight along with him. What are you thinking?
Well, what I'm thinking is Circus provides us really cool things, the man with four arms, or the underwater girl that can breathe underwater. So it introduces really cool settings. It introduces really cool battle scenarios. It introduces really cool trap scenarios. Yep. I think of like fighting atop the trapeze with this like highly organized group of these four gymnasts that are highly organized and have known each other for eons, it feels like at times, and they're under this spell, and they're pretty much too far gone at this point. I just like the idea of having some type of actionable scenario happening for that. My only question to you though is, as the DM, if we're extending out this arc, say for example, how do we introduce those boss battles, in types of things like that? How do you introduce those things into the world?
Oh, like these mini boss battles?
Yeah.
Well, so here's one thing. The Rakshasa, he's here to eat and stuff like that. So, of course, he's just going to want to keep people around and add to his throng and his pongs. But come on, every bad guy wants to collect, wants to get some money and stuff like that as well. And if he's got the whole entire town at his circus, what's to keep his minions from going through and looting the place? So maybe it's...
There it is.
Yeah, maybe like as you're going through the town, those gymnasts are hopping around roofs like well-trained creepy clown assassins, or you've got like, you see these looters but they're wearing these colorful costumes. Like you're used to seeing like thugs and like blacks and browns and grays, and these ones are like dressed
and
up,
they're not hiding at all.
Exactly. And that no one's stopping them either. They're literally just carrying stuff out. So you could introduce a boss there in this town type scenario and have these trapeze artists, instead of being up on an actual trapeze, which please also do that. Like don't waste that opportunity of being able to have a trapeze fight, but they're swinging around on like clotheslines and cables in between buildings and just making all these backflips and giving them reactions to escape and adds to their AC. You could make them weak foes. Like they don't take a lot of damage, but they have so many crazy in reaction to this and reaction to this that it's just like, oh, I hate these guys. Like, why can't I just hit them?
I want them to be the gnats. I want them to be the gnats, boss. But as I also like the idea of when you do eliminate one of them, absolute sheer horror comes across their face. Like, oh my God, this has never happened.
Yep.
But he was just, trapeze guy number one was just smushed like a bug.
Yep.
Like, the rest of us need to get out of here. But I like the idea of like four-arm man carrying, and of course he's Goro from Mortal Kombat, but anyways, but he's carrying out goods and things like that with some other goons. The insane clown posse. Let's just bring them into this. Let's just go nuts.
You have to do clowns.
Beast are another thing.
Oh, especially
you
in
can
a
go through your entire
world.
bestiary in this one and just look at cool stuff that you would love to have in the circus.
Yeah, like you could do a unicorn, you could do a wyvern. There are so many animals that you could do, and just have that like unleash the cages moment. Especially like if you're gonna fight in the circus, this might be the type of setting you're dealing with. This creature who's got a lot of illusion magic. It would be very possible like to run this almost, if you wanted to, like a gauntlet. Like round one, they're fighting the trapeze artist in the tent, and then the lights go out, spotlight hits across the area. All right, ladies and gentlemen, for our next showing, we're gonna like unleash the cages, and now you have animals come out, and then every now and again you could have like
It's a show. It's a game show of death.
Exactly. Yep.
Because his ego is through the roof.
Yep. And you unleash like animals. Since he also can cast Major Illusion, you could have him just cast this, and the whole entire like scape of the tent, of the ground they're on changes, and now there's like these elements, and of course you have stagehands moving things around too. So it's not just like, oh, there's a pool of lava on the ground and they step on it and something actually pokes through their foot like a spike or something. And they're like, what the heck? Did someone move spikes out here? Like underneath the illusion?
Yeah, exactly. Man, that's the... See, the only thing that I worry about with that, with your players, is if... because there's a balance, right?
Mm-hmm.
How do you keep your players up to make it through a gauntlet? Gauntlets are tough to do.
This is a higher level party, though. These are maybe
That's true.
level
So you
13s.
might have a cleric in there that could go nuts.
Mm-hmm.
You might have some other, like a ranger or somebody like that has some really good healing. They might have tons of potions on them too. You've got to prepare them. You got to know that they're prepared to go into something like that.
Exactly.
If you're going to go with the gauntlet.
Which
I love that. To me, as a kid playing video games, the boss battles, just going next to next, the Mega Man approach,
Yep.
That was so fun. But the circus itself does such a good job of that. And we really hit home on both sort of the theme and the scenario, because obviously the hostage situation isn't the quintessential hold the gun to the head, give me what I want kind of thing. This is a much more subtle hostage situation that has presented itself. And then the fact that it's been a circus has just been an absolute joy.
What?
Come to think of it.
Oh, yeah.
I was sort of worried, to be quite honest with you, at the beginning. I was
me
like,
too. I was like, I don't know how we're going to pull this off. One last
Nope.
thing, though, I want to say that I think
Yeah.
talking about these minions, it could be great. As I'm flipping through the player's handbook, you could have, and I'm going to butcher this word, but you could have lycanthropes, essentially werewolf type scenarios.
yeah.
But you could do it just in the player's handbook, and please, out there, make your own. You could do werebears, wereboars, wererats, weretigers, werewolves. You could have like this like big burly dude in a tutu who like walks up, and then he just like, or a few of them, and then they all just like transform into bears. And now you have like the quintessential like bears in tutus who you're
Oh
fighting.
my god.
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
And a behemoth of a mammoth type of elephant or something.
You have to. You have to.
Yeah.
I like this a lot.
Yep. I love the idea of spotlighting every single time. And your players are gathering themselves, like wiping blood from their mouth and breathing heavily. And they just got finished fighting off the trapeze guys, and then lights shut down. Ladies and gentlemen, I bring you the next great attraction.
And think about this too. I'm sorry, like we're getting close to our hour, but I'm getting the ideas now. So this thing knows detect thoughts too. You could have like a, from the ceiling he lowers down just quickly this like Hall of Mirrors type situation, and the Rakshasa knows like your thoughts. So he could then start going through this, you're isolated in this Hall of Mirrors situation. Everyone's separated, and he knows your worst fears. He knows the things you've done you regret. He knows the people that you love most. And he's now like taking turns going around as you're trying to make your way through the maze to find each other. He's going through and like just tormenting you. And just
and this slows pacing, but in the right kind of way.
Exactly. Yep.
Yeah.
Yep.
Because what kind of detective movie doesn't go well with a mirror walk around trying to find the bad guy in the Hall of Mirrors, only to shoot out the wrong mirror or something like that?
Yep.
It could cause insanity in your players. It could do a lot of really cool things.
Oh, and even,
then what about this, though?
Go ahead.
So then you've got the rides of the circus. You've got the roller coasters of sorts, and the...
Ooh. Yep.
Or the mini games. Those are always fun, too.
Yep.
Those could be little fun diversions for your players.
Oh, to have to go through. Oh, that sounds so good, dude. Even like, I'm sorry, I'm still back on the Hall of Mirrors thing. So your players are trying to find each other.
Yeah.
And
Oh, yeah.
you could have him be like, okay, I'm gonna go left and then right, and then you just nonchalantly say like, as you go around the corner, there he is. You see party member A, and he's like, oh, good dude, party member A. And party member A, doesn't know that this isn't happening. He's like, oh, cool, we found each other. And then you have like both of them in that moment, as they walk closer to each other. The versions of themselves they see are doppelgangers, and now it's like, oh, holy crap, I thought you said I found them, but I didn't find them. And then makes the next time that happens another moment of like, is this really you? And you could have them role play that moment of like, tell me a thing that only you would know.
You got a birthmark on your left butt cheek. I told you never to tell anybody.
I told you not to tell anybody.
And that's why you're my friend.
Yep. Dude, this is
oh
gonna be...
man.
Once again, I want to run this session, man.
Okay, so I think yet again, just like the Haunted Mansion, and with all due respect to dragons on the islands and a train, escaping the train, this circus scenario, I want to play this right now.
Yep. Me too.
Oh my god.
And we're gonna have some supplements coming out of this one. So be looking on the home brewery.
Man.
That's
I'm
a
just
spicy
telling
carnival.
you, this home brewery is about to go nuts. And we still have some home brewery to do for the episode 3, but I'm telling you, this one is going to be quite a bit of fun to work on.
Oh yes.
I cannot wait, my friend. So let's wrap it up with a story synopsis real quick.
Okay.
And we'll go from there. I'm gonna let you take this one away.
Okay, cool.
Because you killed it. You killed it, my friend.
The story synopsis. Okay, so you're coming back home after a month-long adventure. You vanquished the lich at the bottom of a dungeon, or you killed the dragon who was hopping from island to island. And about, a day or two out on your journey, you just randomly happen to step on an old flyer. You look down and you see that the circus, 1 week only, is going to be in your hometown. It puts a little excitement back in you. It is, spring, and, usually the Harvest Festival rolls around, so you trot into town, and as you trot in, however, you notice that no one seems to be around. You go to your favorite tavern, and the patrons aren't really there. You go to your favorite shop to sell your loot, and the shopkeep's not there. You walk outside, and that's when you see it. Clowns? What? Trapeze artists are swinging from building to building, and they're holding all of the town's possessions. Combat ensues, and you quickly find yourself chasing these members back to a tent outside of town. And as you walk in, lights dimmed, you see people clapping and cheering for a man standing in the center ring. He turns and he faces you, and that's when you notice it's a humanoid figure, but with fur covering his entire body, weird out-twisted hands, a top hat that he takes off as he bows to you, and he says, gentlemen, ladies and gentlemen, we have some more performers for our next act. Welcome to the circus. It's a most captivating show.
Boom. I think I'm in love.
Like I said,
Man.
I saw The Greatest Showman. I haven't seen Infinity
Yeah, you
War.
pulled up a Hugh Jackman right there. That was incredible.
That's what I do.
I didn't expect to do it that way, and I liked it. My story synopsis, I'm like, yeah, this is what we do, and like, then you do this, and you're just sitting there like, as the crumpled piece of paper slowly tickles between your toes.
Ooh, I should have said that. Sorry, I'm a big nerd, everyone out there. So just so you know, Cam knows.
Hey, never be afraid of your nerd.
It's true.
All right?
It's who I am.
You let that inner nerd out.
Thanks.
All right, let's take us out. But before that, guys, make sure, if you haven't already, we've got some social media sites that you're more than welcome to follow us on. We post regularly on Twitter, Reddit, Instagram, Tumblr. If I'm missing anything, let me know. I'm sure I am. You can find us at Filling in the Gaps in each of those social media sites. We will be posting quite a bit of stuff for any of the episodes that we already have done. Home Brewery is where we do a lot of our posting for the actual episode supplements, just to help you out. But yeah, it's we're really thankful for y'all listening, and I'm glad you made it this far.
Yeah, and likewise, remember, if there's an idea you got listening to today's episode, please let us know. We want to, if you have an idea for a good sideshow or a good villain for this session, let us know. We'll make it into a supplement. We'll give you credit for it. We'll give you a shout out. And as always, we love talking to you guys. We don't want to do this just so we can talk to each other. We love helping you guys out as well. So if there's anything we can do, any advice you need, find us on social media, hit us up, give us ideas, ask us questions, and leave us reviews. Tell us what you'd like to see more of or less of so we can help you guys fill in the gaps. Cam, you got anything else to say?
I love you guys so very much.
So much.
And it's just really nice. Honestly, I can't go anymore, Rich. Just finish it.
Okay. We'll see you guys next Monday. Be looking out for supplements. We love you guys. Okay. Bye. We're nerds.